wanted to talk a little bit about this really quick. So the Hollywood Handle put out a list right now of the top 20 highest grossing movies that have come out this year. And it's really, really interesting. First things first, I wanted to point this out. Does anybody else find it weird how like everybody covered Barbie? Barbie was this really big deal. And it like just barely beat Super Mario Brothers. And I remember nothing about like other than a lot of people liked it. It's not like it got the media push or any of the level of promotion.
It didn't
that
generate
did. No,
conversation, but
not
people
even
liked
close.
it.
Yeah.
But Barbie was controversial, which adds to its cultural impact.
So here's the funny thing about it. Of the first top 10 movies, 5 of them lost money. And the ones that did, only one of them over $100 million budget and managed to make any money. That was Guardians of the Galaxy. The other 4 that profited, which was Barbie, Mario, Oppenheimer, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, all had budgets of $100 million. And I think Hollywood could actually learn something from this. Like, you can find that sweet spot of a budget for... Now, that's not including
about Fast
marketing.
10?
Fast 10 had a $340 million budget. Lost money.
Okay.
So lost money.
And then the rest of them lost money.
And the rest of the
Sound
top
of Freedom
10
did not.
No, I'm just going through the first top 10 right now. So then once you go to the bottom half of the list, the bottom 3, Megan, Insidious, Sound of Freedom, $16 million budgets and under. $16 million for Insidious, 15 for Sound of Freedom, only $12 million for Megan, profiting upwards to over $150, $160 million. I'm sorry, $180 million on all of them. John Wick had a budget of $100 million. The rest of them, Meg 2, barely, almost none of them making any money. So 10 movies out of the top 20 profited. The rest of the movies from the whole list of top 20 movies of 2023 all lost money. There has to be a better way.
Well, I think it's like Hollywood's kind of like hitting the wall. Like, there's a lot of propaganda in a lot of these films. Now, of course, Mario and maybe even Barbie to some extent, like, I've heard arguments on the Barbie stuff, but like, there wasn't like a woke thing being pushed in. I was a big fan of like Creed's on this list, number 15.
It only had a $75 million budget. They did it with a lot less.
Yeah, but I will not watch Creed 4.
No.
Like, Creed 3, like, neutered the franchise. Like, it's dead. Like,
Got one from
$20 there from Corey Anderson.
PCC crew, this will probably be my last live show for 6 months as I'm deploying Monday morning. Brett, you should have Mary read super chats in between each segue so comments don't get lost in the mix. Y'all are awesome.
They do not get lost. We read all the super chats. If they do, it's a mechanical malfunction.
Don't we already?
Perfect.
Isn't that how we do things already?
We read them in between segments. That's the way it is. It's the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. So, and then you just look at that list. $100 million movie. Don't spend more than that. At the very least, you're then losing less if you lose money on it.
Right. Well,
right.
And there's also, I don't know if this is factoring in, but there's a marketing budget on all these films. I don't know if that's factored into the numbers you're reading out.
No. Okay, so the numbers I did are with the marketing budget. They still lost money with the marketing attached to it. And I marketed low end, meaning like times 1.5 of the budget. A lot of these movies, if I had to guess, are spending more than that these days on budgets. So there's got to be a better way. Also, another thing, only 2 of the superhero movies made any money in that top 20 list.
Which ones?
Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
The rest of them all crap the bed. It's all, you look at it, it's going to be video game movies, I think.
Well, so like it's easier to sell a movie based off a property because the branding's already cooked into our culture, pop culture wise. People recognize it, so it's just an easier sell. And I come from superhero stuff. I worked at DC Comics for like 20 some odd years. Like, it pains me to say, even me, I'm at a superhero fatigue. If I see a plumber drive down the street, there's like a knockoff Superman on the side of the van. I don't really, I'm kind of tired of it. The emblem on the chest, all of that. I think to me anyways, and I come from a different angle on the superhero stuff, it kind of needs to go away for a while and be forgotten and then brought back.
And that's what they've done in the past. I mean, before they became mega profitable, you'd get one once in a while, and then they'd go a long period of time without it, and then you'd come back. But now...
I kind of feel like there used to be a million Western films, right? You end up with the good guy with the gun and the bad guy in the gun, all of that stuff. And I feel like we're in that right now with Hollywood, with the superhero stuff. Yeah. Now, where Hollywood's challenges are right today, I mean, you see John Wick 4 here doing really well. I doubt, that franchise, they know when to end it, in a way. And they have that new spinoff happening.
The Continental.
Yeah, the Continental. Indiana Jones, who asked for that?
Nobody.
You know? Nobody.
And there's not just the Continental. There's also Ballerina, which is the Ana de Armas spin-off of it, which is going to happen. And I just remember the first thing I thought of when I saw the trailer for the Continental was like the first scene had like bad trigger discipline, and I'm like, they're not paying attention. They've forgotten what makes the series work. What if do you think there's going to be like a boom now for video game movies the way that there was for superhero movies?
It really depends. I mean, I think it matters more with the quality of it. The Super Mario Brothers movie at least had great quality about it. It was truly a labor of love. Yeah. And now you're seeing talks about like a Legend of Zelda movie or a Metroid movie or a Star Fox movie, and I said go for it. Make that Smash Brothers
Turok
universe.
movie. I want a Turok movie.
A Turok movie would actually be pretty
or a Metal Gear Solid. I mean, I think they'd screw up.
Oh, they've been talking about doing a Metal Gear Solid movie for ages.
Yeah.
Did you see Gran Turismo?
No,
it's really good.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
It's really good. She hated it. I loved it. It was.
I did not hate it. I didn't. I just thought it starts off really slow.
But it's good. It's a feel good sports movie. You need more feel good sports movies.
It felt more like a sports movie than a video game movie.
To me,
it felt like a big plug for Sony, like just a big advertisement for Sony.
There is a scene where like he buys a guy a gift and he buys him like a Sony music player. I'm like, nobody's bought somebody a Sony music player in the history.
But it was this really like heartfelt special thing just to advertise a product to you.
To me, it's like really hard to get 60 plus game hours compacted into a 2-hour movie, and that to me, as a guy that plays the games, like I'm sorely disappointed. Like there's been lots of video game movies before that have failed. Like Doom was one of them. That I mean, you know, like. I'd love to see it, but I know a Metal Gear Solid, being a big Metal Gear Solid fan, that you can't make that movie.
Who remembers Street Fighter? The Street
Fighter movie.
I remember Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Yes, dude. So it's like, I just don't know if, it's what it is though. The reason I like Gran Turismo or Super Mario is like, yeah, there's Easter eggs, but it's not a lot of lore. Like there's lore, but it's not story, right? So you can tell a Gran Turismo movie because it's about people racing on a track. Right. So there's room for the snobby directors and writers to be able to put their stamp on it.
People liked the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and that has a lot of lore.
Yeah.
I have not heard anything good about that.
Really? A lot of people liked it. I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
There's a $20 one there from Dangerous Dave.
You brought your condoms like a good boy, like we talked about.
I don't know what that's about.
I don't know what that is.
Dangerous Dave is
an inside joke with you.
Well, yeah.
Dave?
Well, so Dangerous Dave in Comicsgate is our resident attorney at law, giving advice about how to handle women.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, like, and also, but like the Meg 2, I still haven't seen it, and that's like my own fault. Like that's the type of movie I love to go see. Like I'll go watch anything with I watched The Transporter like last week with Jason Statham. I've seen that movie like 100 times. I'll watch anything with Jason Statham if it's not a serious film. Right. Like there's room in that movie had like $129 million budget. Cut these movies to $100 million budget and stop making like you don't need to spend $250 million on a movie that looks bad anyways.
Well, I feel like a lot of people, I don't know how much of this movie money is going to certain key actors that they feel like they have to have. You know, like how much did Harrison Ford get for Indiana Jones 3?
I'm sure
like, a lot, right? And I think there's this expectation in Hollywood that a lot of people think they're going to be the next eventual Tom Cruise. Yeah. You know, or Sandra Bullock, where they're going to demand that type of, rate to come in on these films. Like, you kind of wonder like how much money is going to the Hollywood elitist and following that trend. And you know, we're seeing a strike and a lot of stuff now, so it kind of goes into a lot of things, you know, this type of thing. But Hollywood, I mean, in YouTube land, I've talked to a lot of YouTubers and people that a lot of people say that young up and coming like big YouTubers like Mr. Beast or whoever you want to name, like, you know, that's the next generation of entertainer, that they're not even going to Hollywood. So Hollywood's in this weird spot where there probably are overspending in a lot of ways, and they got it's a whole different system now. You know?
I mentioned the other day, like I said, if these actors, like, especially the ones who have like built up their own reputations by now, they could do this on their own if they wanted to. They just don't want to. Like I mentioned Critical Role. which turned a YouTube show about Dungeons and Dragons into a successful Amazon Prime series that they were able to sell off. After raising the capital they needed to make it on their own, Amazon Prime then went and bought it out. They didn't need to do that. They were able to raise the money on their own, and the YouTube channel was unbelievably successful outside of the fact that all the people involved were Ashley Johnson's very successful. The other lady, I believe, is Lois Lane in the DC animated film. Like one of the other main ladies, like DC's Lois Lane in the animated series. Like they're successful people. These people have large social media platforms. They can convert it to money if they want to.
Right.
They just don't want to. They don't understand, or at least aren't willing to admit that the capital that's invested by these companies matters. It's why they're complaining about residuals, because it's like, yeah, you're not fronting the money up. You're not fronting the money to take the risk. They are. And I don't stand for the studios. They get what they deserve with these scumbags. Like, I don't care. But it's going to be interesting to see. I think they should all start adjusting their budgets, which is something we've been saying for a long time.
Well, some of it, too, is like, do they just assume that higher budget means higher box office? Is that still a thing? You know, I mean, I know they're always jockeying for, like, that one holiday weekend, the big weekend. Like, there's a lot of this stuff. Like, I don't know if that still exists.
No.
Like, you know, like, has that formula changed? You know, like, the big budget movie, does it obviously, looking at this chart, it's not turning into you're just spending more money, you're not getting a profit back.
Yeah. And some of these examples, like if you look at like The Flash, that was Ezra Miller's a scumbag, and it was hampered by years of delays and stuff like that, which ballooned the budget on these things. But Transformers, Rise of the Beasts, it made sense when Michael Bay made them, and they were awful, and I love them, but they made money, the less and less every time. But there's the return on investment is too small, and it's why it's funny, because horror movies always make their money back.
So does these numbers actually pull in the international box office?
This is global box office.
That's horrible. Yeah. Like, I mean, because when I worked at Legendary, like they would go in like saying doing like Clash of the Titans, and they would say, well, our testing says it's actually going to do really well in Europe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like a lot of these films, they maybe are spending the money, and it maybe doesn't even look like it'll do that well in the U.S., but they're looking at, like, this country's really going to love this movie, and we're going to make it in the Chinese box office or something like that.
And China is less of a return on investment every year. It seems like they're focused on their own stuff.
Well, they only allow unless it's changed, like something like X number of international films into their country, so everybody's pushing to get in that because the population's so high. You know.
Weirdly enough, Barbie did well in China, and nobody thought that was going to happen because of the,
Because of what?
Trans Barbie, feminism.
Is that it, really?
It didn't index well, but it ended up overperforming. So also, it's funny that Elemental made this list, considering I don't know anyone who saw it or was going to.
It's a kids movie. It's what you take to in the summer when your kids are on school break.
But again, made $479 million, but it had a budget of $200 million. How do you expect to make your money back on that?
Non-binary water glob character.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media, and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.